She won't know what you were until you stop being reachable. Familiarity dulls urgency until it vanishes. Being available becomes expected. When everything is guaranteed, appreciation never spikes. Presence teaches her there is no cost to leaving. You show up and she assumes she can always return. That assumption keeps her from reflecting. Access neutralizes consequence. Without consequence, behavior stays the same. You being there becomes the default, not the prize. Default things rarely get gratitude. Keep responding and you keep the illusion that nothing matters. Silence creates pressure. Silence makes the mind search for reasons. When you withdraw, distractions fade. In the quiet, she meets the truth of her choices. Nothing forces introspection like losing access. It's not cruelty to leave, it's clarity. Clarity arrives when she can no longer test the limits. She can't treat you lightly if you're gone for good. Small conveniences hide big costs. A single message removes discomfort. Availability acts as a bandage over regret. Pull the bandage and the wound breathes. Once the wound breathes, healing starts with honesty. You stepping back removes the safety that allowed avoidance. Her ego loses its cushion. She can't pretend consequences don't exist. That shake forces memory to widen. Memories that felt ordinary begin to stand out. She remembers your steadiness more clearly. Routine turns into rarity when it stops. The calm you provided becomes notable in its absence. Where she used to scroll past your text, she now scrolls through empty threads. That emptiness rewrites her internal script. She imagined options when you were present. Without access, options look thinner. People who promised abundance suddenly feel ordinary. Comparison becomes inevitable. New attention no longer hides the gap you filled. Distance sharpens the differences she ignored. She begins to weigh what she truly wanted. Regret grows not from drama but from contrast. Contrast exposes what was rare. Rare things only become precious when they end. Your absence is a practical teacher. It offers proof, not persuasion. You don't lecture, life does the convincing. Let reality do the work silence can't. Steady withdrawal reshapes her narrative about you. You are not replaceable in the ways that matter. That becomes obvious in ordinary moments away from you. When she can no longer reach the man who kept her steady, she notices who she was with him. She begins to miss how calm she felt. That missing is different from longing for excitement. It is a slow recognition of value. Recognition once earned rarely vanishes. She discovers that comfort without reciprocity was a trap. She learns that security requires mutual effort. Empty promises fail to reproduce the calm you provided. Eventually she connects the dots between her choices and their results. Guilt follows clarity, quiet but undeniable. That guilt compels a reevaluation of priorities. It shifts her standards slowly and permanently. Seeing you move on accelerates this change. Remember this. Silence is a spotlight. It makes small truths impossible to ignore. When you stop filling the air, her mind starts cataloging what used to exist. Distraction can only last so long without your voice to anchor it. Solitude forces the memories you avoided to surface. Your retreat removes the comfortable explanations she leaned on. She can no longer blame life or timing or someone else. She must sit with the shape of her choice. Without immediate replies, she feels the gap you created. Small habits become loud reminders. A coffee she once texted about feels empty. The route she used to take with you suddenly has no companion. Simple routines reveal their missing steady hand. Silence strips away the narrative she told herself to feel safe. That narrative kept her from seeing your contribution. Distance dismantles the stories that justified taking you for granted. Now she counts moments where your steadiness mattered. Memories stop being background noise and turn into evidence. Evidence is dangerous. It compels decisions. She starts replaying the calm conversations you gave without demand. The way you steadied storms now reads like an unusual skill. What felt ordinary becomes strange when it is gone. Isolation reframes her past behavior as a series of avoidances. Those avoidances were easy with access. They become costly when access is revoked. Regret is not immediate. It sneaks in through routine failures. A night alone notices the absence of your steadiness. A panic lacks the hand that used to steady it. A problem stretches longer without your voice to shorten it. She learns the true price of having you as a cushion. Silence breeds clarity more effectively than arguments. Conversations aimed at convincing rarely change deep habits. But lived consequence rewrites priorities. Absence is an education that no lecture can match. It teaches by consequence, not persuasion. When she can no longer test your tolerance, she sees the margin she overused. She recognizes favors she accepted without reciprocating. That recognition produces a slow, private ache. That ache forces inventory. Inventory highlights imbalance. Imbalance demands correction or acceptance. Most people choose correction if they are honest with themselves. Honesty begins in quiet rooms where excuses no longer fit. Your silence is a method, not malice. It prevents her from rehearsing returns that never came. It breaks the habit of treating love as a fallback plan. Separation gives her the chance to revalue what steady love really costs. Over time, the realization hardens into an unwillingness to repeat mistakes. That unwillingness is the root of real change. Silence doesn't humiliate. It clarifies. It helps her see the difference between momentary thrills and lasting safety. And when she finally understands, the lesson is quiet but permanent. You don't announce this as punishment. You practice it as protection. You rebuild while she learns. That timing makes the truth undeniable and irreversible, and you become unreturnable forever. Distance becomes a mirror she can't avoid. Every quiet moment reflects the parts of herself she tried to hide when she had you. Without your presence steadying her, she's left alone with the weight of her choices. That weight presses harder when there's no reassurance waiting on the other side of her impulsive decisions. She starts noticing how quickly temporary excitement fades when there's no dependable core to fall back on. The thrill she chased now feels thin. It doesn't fill the spaces your consistency once covered. She realizes that validation from the outside world comes with an expiration date. Your support didn't. That contrast stings in a very private way. With time, the silence squeezes out the justifications she used to rely on. She can't pretend you were clingy when you're gone. She can't claim you were too available when you stopped showing up. She can't rewrite the story when the chapter has already closed. That closure forces her to sit in the truth. She misjudged the value of a man who asked for nothing but gave everything. That realization doesn't show up dramatically. It shows up quietly, in the middle of the night, in the middle of routines, in the middle of her attempts to act unaffected. Regret creeps in through contradictions. She wanted independence, yet she misses the stability she once rejected. She wanted freedom, yet she longs for the peace you used to bring. She wanted options, yet none of those options matched the emotional safety you provided without effort. This is the moment she understands that losing a man of emotional discipline isn't like losing anyone else. Men like you don't circle back. You rebuild. You evolve. You detach. And once you detach, the emotional door doesn't reopen. Your absence forces her to confront her own emotional patterns. She begins to see how her reactions shaped the relationship. She sees the moments she dismissed your boundaries. She remembers the times she demanded maturity while offering chaos. She recalls times you gave patience when she offered excuses. Those memories start forming a pattern she can't ignore. That pattern exposes her inconsistency. And inconsistency always collapses when measured against calm strength. Silence also exposes the truth about her new environment. She compares every new conversation to the depth you brought. She measures every new interaction against the stability you offered. Other men might show interest, but interest without substance feels hollow after experiencing your presence. The contrast is sharp. It's uncomfortable. And it keeps reminding her of a reality she didn't want to face. She walked away from someone irreplaceable. The more she tries to distract herself, the louder that truth becomes. Detachment magnifies your value. Progress highlights her loss. And the moment she realizes you're not waiting, everything inside her shifts. Not because she suddenly wants commitment, but because she finally understands she underestimated a man who won't return to a place he healed from. Silence turns into a pressure she didn't expect. It tightens around every area of her life where she once relied on you without admitting it. She starts noticing how many emotional shortcuts she took because you quietly carried the weight for both of you. Now that burden sits entirely on her shoulders. And it's heavy. Every ignored message, every delayed response, every moment of uncertainty, those used to be softened by your presence. Without you, they hit harder. They expose the gaps she used to hide behind comfort. Her confidence begins to fluctuate in ways she can't explain to anyone else. She doesn't want to admit that losing you disrupted her internal balance. So she smiles publicly while privately wrestling with the loss of a man who never demanded but always delivered. She tries to move forward, but forward feels unfamiliar without the emotional grounding you once provided. Even her highs feel unstable. Even her victories feel incomplete. She tastes success but feels the absence of someone who would have celebrated it with calm pride. As the silence stretches, she starts scanning her past with sharper accuracy. She remembers the nights you listened without judgment. She recalls the days you showed up without hesitation. She acknowledges how you protected her peace even when she didn't protect yours. Those memories land differently now. They don't feel like normal relationship moments. They feel rare. They feel uncommon. They feel like something she didn't appreciate because she assumed it would always be available. The truth becomes unavoidable. She mistook your consistency for simplicity. She misread your loyalty as convenience. She believed your patience meant you'd stay no matter how she responded. Losing you breaks that illusion completely. It's the first time she understands that calm men aren't passive. They're selective. They choose where they invest. They decide where they give their energy. And once they withdraw, the door doesn't open again just because someone regrets their behavior. Her internal world becomes a quiet battleground. Doubt creeps into corners she once felt secure in. She questions her decisions. She questions her standards. She questions the moments where pride outweighed gratitude. She wonders why she pushed away the only person who offered stability without conditions. That questioning becomes a cycle she can't shut off. It follows her to work. It follows her home. It follows her through every attempt to distract herself. When she sees you becoming calmer, stronger, more focused, something sharp stirs inside her. She realizes she wasn't replaced, she was surpassed. She sees a man building without her. A man improving without her influence. A man growing past the version she once knew. That's when it hits her. She didn't just lose a relationship. She lost access. Access to your mind. Access to your presence. Access to the emotional safety she thought she could return to whenever she wanted. Your silence didn't punish her. It exposed her. It showed her the difference between emotional comfort and emotional maturity. And now she feels every inch of that distance every single day, while you keep moving forward, silently, decisively, permanently. She never expected your silence to transform you. She thought you'd stay frozen in the version she left behind, waiting, hoping, replaying everything she did. But the distance didn't weaken you. It rebuilt you. It sharpened your edges. It lit a fire under the parts of you she underestimated. You didn't crumble like she imagined. You grew into someone she no longer has access to. That shift haunts her more than any argument ever could. As time moves, she starts noticing things she didn't pay attention to before. You're calmer. You're clearer. Your presence feels heavier even from afar. Your energy doesn't chase anymore. It attracts. It carries a quiet confidence that wasn't fully formed back then. She sees it in the way you've stopped reaching out. She sees it in the way you've stopped responding emotionally. She sees it in the way nothing she does can pull your focus back toward her. That new version of you is unfamiliar. And what's unfamiliar often becomes intimidating. Your growth becomes a reminder she didn't want. It exposes the truth she avoided. She had a man who was evolving long before she realized it. And now that evolution is visible, undeniable, and completely out of her control. Every improvement you make becomes a small wound to her pride. Every step forward you take highlights the distance between who she is and who you became. She doesn't admit it out loud, but she feels it. She feels the shift every time she sees you unaffected. She feels it every time she notices other people drawn to you now. She feels it every time she realizes she no longer plays any role in your inner world. Your silence didn't just create space, it removed her influence. She can't shape your mood anymore. She can't spark reactions. She can't trigger old emotions. You no longer move the way she remembers. You don't rush, you don't break, you don't reach. That emotional independence is something she never expected you to develop without her presence. And now that you have it, she doesn't know how to respond. She starts questioning her own choices, not because she suddenly wants you back, but because she now understands what she lost. Strength scares people who benefited from your softness. Growth intimidates people who expected you to stay in the same emotional position. When you rise, the people who left you have to face their own stagnation. That's what makes your transformation so powerful. You didn't evolve to impress her. You evolved because losing her forced you to meet yourself on a deeper level. The man you've become is no longer accessible to the woman who took you for granted. That truth hits harder than any breakup ever could. Not because she regrets leaving, but because she realizes she could never handle the version of you that finally learned how to stop needing her altogether. You start to notice how your energy shifts when you stop chasing explanations and stop hoping for closure that was never going to be given. Your silence becomes a form of discipline, not withdrawal. You're not trying to make her feel anything. You're trying to make yourself stronger. That shift changes everything inside you. You begin to see how much of your peace you handed over without realizing it. You remember the arguments you tried to fix. The moments you tried to understand what didn't make sense because it wasn't supposed to. Now you understand the difference between effort and self-sacrifice, between patience and self-betrayal, between loyalty and emotional exhaustion. That clarity doesn't come loudly. It comes in the small moments where you finally breathe without tension. You start rebuilding from the inside out. You rebuild the parts of yourself you neglected trying to hold a connection together. You rebuild your boundaries. You rebuild your confidence. You rebuild the parts of yourself she never truly understood. That rebuilding becomes addictive because you finally feel momentum again. You feel the version of yourself you lost coming back stronger, sharper, calmer. You stop needing validation from someone who couldn't recognize your depth. You stop trying to prove your worth to someone who benefited from you but never valued you correctly. Your focus shifts to what you can control, not what slipped out of your hands. Distance teaches you to detach without bitterness. It teaches you to let go without resentment. You're not trying to win. You're not trying to punish. You're simply choosing yourself. That decision carries more weight than anything you could ever say to her. She might assume the silence is a tactic, but it's actually the first real act of self-respect you've practiced in a long time. You no longer see her as the answer to your instability. You recognize she was the source of it. You notice how calm life feels when you're not constantly decoding mixed emotions. You realize how peaceful you are when you're not trying to predict someone else's storms. Growth becomes your addiction. Progress becomes your closure. You stop replaying old moments looking for signs you missed. You stop analyzing conversations that cannot be changed. You stop revisiting emotional wounds she helped create. Your vision clears. Your purpose sharpens. You understand that losing someone who couldn't appreciate you is actually gaining yourself back. And you feel the difference in your posture, your tone, your presence. You become harder to disturb. You become more selective with your energy. You become more intentional with your time. And as you rise, you finally understand the truth. Silence wasn't about her. It was about you reclaiming the man you were always meant to become. When that realization settles in, everything changes. You don't return to old chapters. You don't seek old comfort. You choose the path forward even if it's quieter, even if it's lonelier, because it's finally yours. Walking away without drama is an act of power, not punishment. You don't collapse when she chooses a different path. You stand firm and keep your peace. Calm detachment signals that your worth isn't negotiable. When you refuse to bargain for attention, you expose the truth of your value. Desperation dissolves respect. Confidence rebuilds it. Let absence do the heavy lifting. Leaving without spectacle forces a private reckoning. She notices the lack of noise before she notices the reason. Quiet changes the context of every memory. You don't argue to prove a point. You don't plead for changes. You accept reality and redirect your energy. That refusal to chase is both boundary and lesson. It shows that your center isn't fragile. It shows that your life has momentum outside of her orbit. When you stop being her default, the default loses appeal. People value what they cannot casually access. Your composed exit turns availability into rarity. Composure is a contrast weapon. While others implode, you move with steady purpose. That movement isn't performative. It's practical. It protects your peace and preserves your standards. She will eventually compare the chaos she chose with the composure she abandoned. Comparisons sharpen in silence. In that sharpness, the truth about your character becomes visible. Boundaries are not walls built from spite. They are lines drawn for self-respect. When you enforce them calmly, you teach consequences without theatrics. She learns that actions have weight. She learns that leaving has results. You don't need to lecture her about fairness. The absence of your presence makes the lesson obvious. Boundaries expose patterns she once mistook for normal behavior. Indifference is not soulless. It's selective preservation. You conserve your attention for what aligns with your values. That conservation forces perspective. She begins to evaluate what she lost from the vantage point of what she now lacks. Your calm refusal to return makes her reconsider the ease with which she dismissed you. That reconsideration grows into quiet regret if she's honest with herself. Dignity ages well. Desperation looks young and tired. Steadiness feels ancient and valuable. When you disengage with class, you age into someone she can't imagine replacing. That realization is slow but effective. It doesn't come from drama. It comes from the steady sequence of choices you make after leaving. Finally, remember, walking away is for your future, not her punishment. You step back to protect what you're building. You withdraw to prove that your life continues. That continuation is the evidence she underestimated. When she watches you build a life that doesn't include her, the implication lands harder than a speech ever could. That implication is the true power of composed detachment. Every steady step you take after leaving rewrites her narrative about you, proving that your absence was not a vacancy but a redesign of your life around purpose, not around someone else's approval today. Absence uncovers the unpaid work you carried in silence. She didn't notice labor while it cushioned her life. Now the cushion is gone and the weight of what you did shows plainly. She realizes you absorbed storms so she could stay soft. The cost of that safety becomes clear when it is removed. Everyday problems you smoothed become jagged edges. Tasks that used to be effortless with you nearby now demand more from her. That strain reveals the quiet competence you built into the relationship. When you leave, she confronts life's logistics without your steadiness. Simple decisions feel heavier. Conflict lasts longer. Emotional spikes have no voice to steady them. She recognizes habitual ways you repaired small ruptures and how those repairs prevented larger collapses. Those tiny interventions, once invisible, become the difference between stability and chaos. Without them, her attention fragments and she scrambles to fill gaps she never knew existed. Loneliness looks different when it's an absence that supported her. She misses the man who made the ordinary manageable. She misses the calm that disguised itself as routine. The emptiness is procedural. Bills, plans, late nights, hard days, these moments accumulate and reveal what you once balanced. Each unchecked problem reminds her of your invisible labor. Each unresolved argument proves how much you moderated fallout. Exposure breeds humility. She starts measuring past choices against new complications. The ease she enjoyed begins to feel like a luxury she squandered. That realization settles like sediment and grows heavier over time. She can no longer slide back into careless habits because consequences manifest in practical delays and emotional frictions. Humility grows from noticing where she assumed you would always be. Absence amplifies small kindnesses that once felt ordinary. A text that calmed an anxious night now reads like emotional craftsmanship. A patient reply that untangled confusion becomes a standard she misses. She begins cataloging those acts and sees a pattern of consistency she once mistook for normal. Cataloging turns affection into evidence. Evidence produces accountability. As she faces the fallout of lost coordination, priorities shift. What seemed optional now reads as essential. She reevaluates who she relied on and why. The men she meets afterward reveal differences sharply. Conversation depth, follow-through, and emotional investment become filters she applies rather than defaults she expects. The absence also reveals your boundaries as strength. Where she once criticized distance, she now sees its role protecting value. Your limits prevented enabling. They created a standard she cannot maintain when you are gone. Seeing those results reframes old complaints into grudging respect. Ultimately, distance exposes a truth you wanted to matter. Love is more than feeling. It is the steady insistence on presence that builds lives. When that insistence stops, lives wobble. She feels the wobble and learns what you held steady. That lesson registers. And that weight reshapes her choices for the years ahead. Distance doesn't just remove you physically, it redefines the timeline of her expectations. Every routine she once shared with you becomes a reminder of what she lost. The quiet spaces where your presence used to steady her now echo with the absence of emotional balance. She notices the weight of decisions she made without considering the consequences. Patterns she overlooked when you were nearby become impossible to ignore. The man she dismissed now exists outside her reach, building, evolving, transforming. Your growth doesn't just highlight your worth, it emphasizes the gap she created. Every accomplishment you make without her underscores that she was not the center of your universe. That realization seeps in slowly, a quiet but persistent pressure she cannot shake. She begins to measure her own life against yours, comparing stability, focus, and clarity she once took for granted. She starts noticing where her choices led her astray, how much easier her life had been with your consistency. New experiences that once seemed exciting feel shallow because they lack the grounding presence you provided. Conversations, adventures, even compliments don't resonate the same way. They feel temporary, hollow, unfinished. That contrast, subtle at first, grows into a persistent ache. She sees the man she lost evolving into someone she can no longer influence, someone whose life is independent of her validation. Each step you take forward without her becomes a mirror showing what she forfeited. She starts replaying the moments she underestimated your patience, your dedication, your emotional intelligence. She recalls how you stood steady while she acted impulsively, how your calmness absorbed chaos she created. That memory doesn't bring anger, it brings awareness of opportunity lost. Over time, the awareness turns into longing for a version of life she no longer has access to. She realizes she didn't just lose companionship, she lost a standard of emotional security that is rare and difficult to find. The contrast between her present and what she had with you sharpens daily. She notices how much effort was quietly invested in her happiness. She begins to understand that what she once assumed was ordinary was extraordinary. And when she tries to fill that void, she recognizes immediately that it cannot be replicated. That recognition fosters a quiet regret that grows over weeks, months, and years. It's not about wanting you back, it's about understanding the depth of what she walked away from. Your absence is permanent, your evolution unstoppable, and the gap you leave behind impossible to replace. In that quiet, undeniable space, she comprehends for the first time that losing you wasn't just losing a man. It was losing the version of herself who existed in your presence, safe, understood, and valued in ways she will rarely experience again. When you step away completely, the reality of your absence hits harder than any argument ever could. She can no longer rely on the safety net you once provided. Every familiar touch point, every predictable check-in, every small reassurance disappears. The world she built around your presence begins to crumble quietly, almost imperceptibly. Her routines, once stabilized by your consistency, now feel unsteady. She notices how much she depended on your emotional grounding without even realizing it. Moments that were effortless with you now demand effort alone. The ease she once felt in her days starts to fade, replaced by tension she doesn't fully understand. She begins to recognize the emptiness left behind. The void isn't just yours, it's the absence of stability, patience, and understanding she failed to appreciate. That realization creeps in during ordinary moments. A stressful day, a challenging conversation, a moment of doubt when she searches for a calm presence that isn't there. She starts measuring her new experiences against the quiet strength you offered. The comparison is inevitable, unavoidable, and relentless. Others cannot replicate the patience you gave. Others cannot match the discipline and consistency that framed her world. She starts noticing gaps in connection, gaps that no one else can fill. That recognition brings clarity, slow but undeniable. She sees that your attachment was intentional, not habitual. that your presence was a choice, a gift, and not a guarantee. And without it, the consequences of her actions begin to crystallize. Every impulsive decision she made, every dismissal, every moment of taking your steadiness for granted, comes back with weight. Guilt emerges quietly, alongside longing she didn't expect. It isn't desperation, it's comprehension. She realizes she lost a man who cared with depth, who invested with intention, and who never relied on superficial validation. Your absence becomes a lesson in emotional scarcity. She feels what it's like to navigate the world without your stabilizing energy. She learns that true support, emotional availability, and strength aren't abundant. That scarcity forces her to confront the reality she ignored. She cannot argue her way back into what she lost. She cannot persuade herself that someone else can replace what you offered. And as you continue to grow, build, and evolve without her, the contrast sharpens. She sees a version of you she cannot influence, cannot reclaim, cannot replicate. That truth stings quietly, steadily, and permanently. The emotional clarity she gains is irreversible. She begins to internalize that she didn't just lose a boyfriend, she lost a foundation, a protector, a source of unwavering support. The permanence of your absence forces her to finally grasp the rarity of what she walked away from. And in that understanding, the quiet ache of regret takes root, teaching her lessons no conversation, no apology, and no fleeting attention could ever convey. When you step away completely, the reality of your absence hits harder than any argument ever could. She can no longer rely on the safety net you once provided. Every familiar touch point, every predictable check-in, every small reassurance disappears. The world she built around your presence begins to crumble quietly, almost imperceptibly. Her routines, once stabilized by your consistency, now feel unsteady. She notices how much she depended on your emotional grounding without even realizing it. Moments that were effortless with you now demand effort alone. The ease she once felt in her days starts to fade, replaced by tension she doesn't fully understand. She begins to recognize the emptiness left behind. The void isn't just yours, it's the absence of stability, patience, and understanding she failed to appreciate. That realization creeps in during ordinary moments. A stressful day, a challenging conversation, a moment of doubt when she searches for a calm presence that isn't there. She starts measuring her new experiences against the quiet strength you offered. The comparison is inevitable, unavoidable, and relentless. Others cannot replicate the patience you gave. Others cannot match the discipline and consistency that framed her world. She starts noticing gaps in connection, gaps that no one else can fill. That recognition brings clarity, slow but undeniable. She sees that your attachment was intentional, not habitual. That your presence was a choice, a gift, and not a guarantee. And without it, the consequences of her actions begin to crystallize. Every impulsive decision she made, every dismissal, every moment of taking your steadiness for granted, comes back with weight. Guilt emerges quietly, alongside longing she didn't expect. It isn't desperation, it's comprehension. She realizes she lost a man who cared with depth, who invested with intention, and who never relied on superficial validation. Your absence becomes a lesson in emotional scarcity. She feels what it's like to navigate the world without your stabilizing energy. She learns that true support, emotional availability, and strength aren't abundant. That scarcity forces her to confront the reality she ignored. She cannot argue her way back into what she lost. She cannot persuade herself that someone else can replace what you offered. And as you continue to grow, build, and evolve without her, the contrast sharpens. She sees a version of you she cannot influence, cannot reclaim, cannot replicate. That truth stings quietly, steadily, and permanently. The emotional clarity she gains is irreversible. She begins to internalize that she didn't just lose a boyfriend, she lost a foundation, a protector, a source of unwavering support. The permanence of your absence forces her to finally grasp the rarity of what she walked away from. And in that understanding, the quiet ache of regret takes root, teaching her lessons no conversation, no apology, and no fleeting attention could ever convey. Subscribe.